Hello everyone and welcome to Motorcast. Today we'll be reviewing the 6th round of the 2017 World Rally Championship from Rally Portugal. Definitely one of the best rallies I've seen in quite a while. Very, very competitive, very, very close. A humongous entry list for this and plenty of WRC entries as well. We had four Citroens rather, and 3 Toyotas as well for this one, so really, really good to see a big WRC grid. Today we'll be talking about Sebastian Ogier's first win since the season opener. We're also talking about Thierry Neuville and another 4th straight podium for him. Talking about Dani Sordo, his 2nd podium of the year. Also talking about the WRC 2 battle and of course that dramatic final stage that decided the WRC 2 category as well. But let's kick it off then with Sebastian Ogier, because of course this is his first win, as I mentioned, since the season opener. It's quite hard to believe that it's taken Ogier this long to get a 2nd win of the season, but it was certainly a hard fought win, and really possibly that decisive moment on Saturday when Tanak had his issue and Ogier getting into that lead, and really once he got into that position, Matty, do you think really the win was in doubt, beyond then?
It definitely kind of solidified the fact, with Ogier in the past, we've had points where obviously a competitor drops out and he kind of runs away with it. But there was hints of that over the weekend, but he still had the likes of Thierry Neuville fighting out until the last stage for the win, despite him being a little bit further back, but. It was by far an easy rally for Ogier. He obviously had to make up the gap after road sweeping on the first day, but I think he can be pretty happy with the result.
And extending his championship lead over Thierry Neuville, Kev, that's pretty good, isn't it, for Ogier? And maybe a bit of an off weekend for Neuville, which is saying something because, of course, he still finished 2nd. So, really impressive. But he didn't really look to have that kind of killer pace that we saw in France and Argentina.
No, he didn't have that killer instinct on the final day where, he was always making up time, especially on that first day. He just didn't really look in sync with the car. But, no, he started real frustrated on the second day when he had, got on that first, so when he got caught up in that first incident and he's stuck in that dust, and then on the second day he got some time back. But yeah, on that final day, I'm not sure if it was just Ogier, it was just his class shown through there, or if Neuville just didn't have it in him. But yeah, it's still solid points, and I think he'd probably take that after the first day where he was just off the pace. And yeah, it's important for the championship now that he's going to put himself as the main challenger to Ogier.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is becoming a bit of a 2-horse race at the top of that championship. And like you mentioned, Neuville was 12th, I believe, from Friday morning. So that was pretty impressive to come all the way through back to 2nd. His teammate Dani Sordo, of course, picking up his 2nd podium this season. I think a decent rally for Sordo. It's kind of the typical kind of Sordo rally, really, just kind of getting to the end, putting in some decent stage times. Not exactly lighting up. He hasn't quite delivered a rally yet where you could potentially see him winning one. That might come, of course, later in the year, particularly, of course, on the tarmac events, particularly, of course, his home event in Spain. But yeah, I think a solid rally for Sordo, would you say, Matty?
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it's kind of what his speciality's become these days, and just keeping it, relatively consistent. And gravel as well isn't his forte. But he did have a fairly quietish rally, and getting up to 3rd place, kind of a bit advantageously given the retirement of some of the other drivers and the hardships. But it's a podium well earned, and it's kind of a testament to not only his driving style but the toughness of the Hyundai to get 2 of them on the podium.
Yeah, definitely. A very, very strong sort of Hyundai. And of course, they're in a big battle with M Sport at the top of the constructor standings as well. They're really kind of pulling away after a difficult weekend for both Toyota and Citroen. But of course, we'll get onto that in just a minute. But for now, I just want to talk a little bit about Ott Tanak as well, who looked so strong kind of Friday afternoon, Saturday morning. He kind of seized the lead, and he was up against Ogier in kind of a head-to-head fight between the 2 M Sport boys. And, Tanak really kind of getting ahead in that battle. But then, of course, unfortunately having that issue, and of course falling to I think about 6th place, but then managed to of course reclaim a bit of ground on Sunday. So I think Kev, he's going to be disappointed, possibly of course not to win this rally. Possibly an opportunity there to win his first rally.
Oh, definitely. And as you said, it was impressive right up till that stage 12 on Saturday where he just ran wide, broke the suspension, and that was his rally loss. But once again, he's showing that, even with Ogier, who's much happier with the car now, it seems like they found out a setup with him. Tanak could match him on, that first day and a half. So that's encouraging for Tanak going forward, that even with a happy Ogier in that Ford, he's still, right up there pace-wise, and he showed on the power stage he won that and had a very impressive jump as well over the FAF jump. So, for Tanak, it's and it's always, he's definitely stepped up a level this year, and I didn't really expect this against Ogier. I thought he might get just blown away by Ogier, but it's very good to see that Tanak's continuing that form he showed, in stages last year, and is now much more consistent this year.
Yeah, it is really nice to see, of that kind of whole rally as well, like I said, rather than just the stage. And this is his fifth top four in 6 rounds, so that's pretty impressive stuff, and a really, really good start to season for Tanak. Of course, the next step will be that win. And Matty, just how soon do you think that win could come? Could it come by the end of the season, or do you think he might just kind of fall at that hurdle once again?
It certainly could come by the end of the season, but he needs... considering it was one mistake that had cost him the win in this rally, that's unfortunate. And, sometimes you need that little bit of luck of, if you do hit something that the car's going to be all right. So I think that, there's definitely a possibility. I'm not 100% convinced he'll win a rally, but I'm probably about 80%. It's just with the competitiveness of the field this year, you just can't really predict, whether, even if a driver's going to finish a rally, never mind if they're going to win one.
Yeah, very, very true. I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say he'll win Poland. We'll just remember that one. But let's talk about the two DMAC drivers, or the kind of two WRC DMAC drivers anyway. Of course, that's Elfyn Evans and Mats Osberg, who of course was switching over from Michelin's to DMAC for this weekend, and seemingly, the switch, I think probably taken a kind of a bit to get going really. He had a couple of punctures, as did Evans as well. One of them, I think, was caused by Evans, a mistake from him, but the other one was kind of possibly an issue with the tyres, possibly going a bit too soft on kind of the gravel, which I think was a lot harder than many were expecting. So how did you kind of rate Osberg's first performance on these DMAC tyres, and Elfyn Evans as well? Elfyn Evans, just to confirm, was in 6th, and Osberg was in 8th in this rally. Kev?
Yeah, I think it was just a learning experience for Osberg. He didn't really have... starting the rally, he was a bit strong, a bit like in Argentina, but then, after that punch, it just dropped him back and kind of being by himself. He had that threat on the final day to keep him company, but he still had the pace there, and it's just lots of data to take back for him with these DMAC tyres. And the DMACs didn't perhaps perform as they perhaps expected. The same for Evans as well, who was, he had that very tight fight on the first day, and then again he dropped back and made that mistake on the second day where he just missed a corner and then went off, broke the front damper. And for Evans, it's a very solid result, and again he was pretty fast on the power stage, so some encouraging sign for Evans, but overall, it's just, pretty average weekend for him.
Yeah, and Matty, Evans was up there in 2nd in Argentina, and we're kind of hoping that he'd be able to continue that form into Portugal. And although he had issues, his pace really wasn't kind of there to win the rally. I think he was, probably the only driver to not win a stage pretty much in WRC this weekend, because I think there was about 9 different drivers who won a stage, and unfortunately Evans wasn't one of those. So do you think it's a bit of a kind of a bit of a disappointment after such a strong performance in Argentina?
Yeah, we after the Argentina rally, we were, or at least I was expecting, for Evans to be getting onto the podium, or at least there being a shot of him. But it's a bit polarising, really, and I'm not exactly sure why. Perhaps it's down to the DMAC rubber, but again, that's what we think got him into the position in Argentina in the first place, was the DMACs. So I think it's possibly just maybe a little bit of a mental thing. Maybe he just doesn't like Portugal. It's just something to do with the way, the roads. It's really kind of difficult to put your finger on why his pace would have changed so much between two seemingly identical gravel rallies.
And I'm just going to, unfortunately dampen the mood a bit now and talk about Citroën and Toyota, who didn't have the best of rallies, I think it's fair to say, Kev, but at least for Citroën, once again, it's that man, Craig Breen, bringing home his 5th place of the season so far. Easily Citroën's best man in the championship at the moment, 15 points ahead of Chris Meek, who of course has just, finished one rally in the points this season. Of course, that was a win in Mexico. But for Breen, really another solid rally. I mean, he had a broken damper in I think Friday afternoon while he was fighting for the lead. So really, we've seen this consistency before from Breen, but I don't think we've really seen this kind of leading pace from him before, really on a more consistent basis, which is what we started to see on Friday, of course, until that issue.
Yeah, it's kind of a mini breakthrough for Breen in Portugal, where, as you said, he was right up there in the battle, being Citroën's lead guy after Meek had another incident. And yeah, for Breen, he's been really impressive. As you said, 4th, 5th place finishes, just been very consistent, bringing the car home. He's doing the opposite of, say, Lefebvre, who's also in that Citroën, and had a massive accident as well on Friday. So yeah, seeing Breen kind of leading the team at the moment is, pretty unexpected and pretty nice to see. But yeah, for his teammates, as I said, Lefebvre having another incident really doesn't look at home in WRC still. So he's got work to do for the rest of the season. And for Meek as well, another incident, it's again into a right-hander, getting the back end out, clipping a rock. It's just a very silly mistake, which we saw many drivers make, but it just, again, cost him a chance of getting a podium or getting a win, and he's made that in virtually every round this season. It's so disappointing to see from Meek, but yeah, the opposite from Breen.
And Matty, we kind of say this every week, that, there is plenty of time left in the season, but on the other hand, we are pretty much halfway through now. We keep on saying, well, it's going to get better for Citroën, it's going to get better for Meek. The pace is in the car, but they just can't deliver the results, can they? And with, Lefebvre just kind of having these issues rally after rally, a bit of pressure is going to be mounting on him to kind of keep his seat for next season, with the likes of Mikkelsen, of course, still without a drive.
Yeah, I think the pressure is really on Lefebvre just because the performances aren't coming. You could arguably say there's a bit of pressure on Meek as well, but that behind all the crashes, the pace is there to win rallies. And, for both of them, I think for both of them they'll be disappointed because they know the pace of the car is there for them to not only win rallies, but in Meek's case, it's a championship winning car that, if he can keep it on the island, which he hasn't done in the majority of the rallies. So in answer to your question about whether the championship's over for him or not, I think it sadly is. He's got too much to do in too little time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for Citroën as well, it might be quite depressing, but they might finish behind, of course, Toyota, who are returning to the championship this year. And of course, one win apiece between them as well. So not ideal for Citroën. Let's talk a bit about Toyota, of course. This rally saw the debut for Escobeca Lappi. Fantastic to see Lappi finally in the WRC on what should be a consistent basis. And certainly after this performance, I think it's fair to say that he certainly showed plenty of pace to warrant the faith that the team has put in him to give him this chance. And certainly a chance that has been a long time coming, Kev. I know you've been following his progress for quite a few years in the kind of lower categories, and now he's finally got his big chance.
Yeah, so happy to see him finally get this chance, and I think he really did deliver with it. He was kind of matching Hänninen for most of the rally after the opening day, and yeah, it's just a shame at the end of the second day, once again he fell victim to clipping a bank, getting a puncher, losing loads of time. But he showed on the power stage, especially at the end, he definitely does have pace with him. He finishing 4th there, and again, one of those drivers having a crazy jump in FAF. But yeah, I think it was, as he said at the end, it was a very good weekend, and I think I agree with him that, he definitely showed something there. And, for Hänninen, as I said, he was kind of matched by that, but still for Hänninen, it was his best weekend of the year as well. He was the leading Toyota driver in the end, even though, that had loads of issues. But for Hänninen, it was a good, quiet run for him, a run that he really did need, even though he did have some issues as well with fuel pressure on the final day. But yeah, for Toyota in general, it's kind of disappointing weekend. They were, that field was up there until he made his mistake, but in general the pace wasn't there for the next couple of days, so there's lots of work to do for Toyota still on, the gravel surface.
Yeah, certainly a lot of work needed for Toyota, and of course, as you mentioned, Latvala having that problem on Friday, of course, rolled the car, but I think did a decent job to kind of, try and bring it back, but, I guess, to get into ninth as well, I think was pretty decent, Matty, but, in terms of his championship, of course, he was kind of second, and, I guess it would have been unfair to say he was going to win this championship, of course, because we kind of knew he was on a bit of borrowed time in terms of being second in the championship, but unfortunately that kind of run of consistency and run of really top results was ended here in Portugal, but still a points finish, so I guess a good save, I think, from Latvala this weekend. And he was very ill as well.
Yeah, that's an important thing to say, is because he was in and out of hospital over the weekend, so for him to have not only rolled the car but also been ill at the same time and managed to finish it in the top 10 is a victory in itself. So I think he can be happy with that. Obviously it's a disappointing result, but looking at the context behind it, I think you can kind of say, well, that's fair enough. And I do think it's a bit of a disappointing weekend for Toyota as a whole. But I think, considering they had all three cars finish and inside the top 10, at least they've gone one better than Citroën there, and the issues they did have were that they weren't rally ending, and they weren't on the same scale as perhaps the other teams.
Yeah, and let's just quick line on the WRC trophy. We've got to cover it because they made the effort to come here and that, and they're still part of the show, but of course not quite getting as much coverage this weekend with such a big kind of WRC list. We had Marvin Prokop, who on his return, 2017 debut for him, and he won that kind of class ahead of Valery Gorban, of course, in his Mini, and we also had, I'm going to butcher Raux's name, but I'm going to go with that, and I believe they were the only three entries in the trophy this weekend, but Kev, I guess good to see Prokop back in the championship, and hopefully he'll be in a 2017 spec Ford as well very soon.
Yeah, always good to see him in the championship, even though you threatened to leave it. I think it was last year, after having issues in, I think it was Italy, wasn't it? But yeah, it's good to see that he's back, and good to see there's a few entries for the WRC trophy. Of course, seeing Gorban in that Mini, always good. Yeah, always good. May not finish rallies, but at least the Mini's still out there, and yeah, hopefully we'll see Prokop in the 2017 vehicle like Osberg, he's kind of his teammate. So yeah, but it's good to see that there are still older WRC cars around.
Yes, for sure. I mean, hopefully they'll get the chance to get in a 2017 car. I'm just not quite sure what Gorban's going to do after this season. If he's just going to carry on with that Mini, or if he can somehow get in a 2017 car. I'm hoping for a kind of 2017 upgraded Mini somehow.
Oh my god, that would be an absolute monster.
Nice. Yeah, but I think bending the rules, would be that'd be a bit too much, especially after we saw that the teams weren't too keen on even getting the VW homologated. So unfortunately, I think that's a bit of a pipe dream. But I'm sure if Gorban loves his rallying, and if he's still got a bit of cash, then I'm sure we'll see him around next season as well. And like you mentioned, hopefully we'll get Prokop as well in a 2017 Focus before the end of the season. But for now, I think he's happy kind of running that team and letting Osberg take the big results, taking the big car and getting those results, which I think they did a decent job of so far, considering they're a bit of an independent team. Really, the resources are a lot smaller than the likes of M Sport. Let's talk a bit about WRC2, of course. Major drama. This was the first kind of compulsory round for all those wanting to win the championship. Everyone basically had to turn up to this rally, so we got a massive WRC2 entry list. I think we had 5 in Argentina, about 6 cars rather in Argentina, so this was fantastic to see such a big entry list in Portugal. It makes a lot more sense, of course, being a European round, a lot easier to get for most of the drivers and teams. Pontus Tiedman actually won his 4th WRC2 rally of the year after Andreas Mikkelsen crashed out on the final stage. I think he had something like a 3-minute lead, but Kev, it all went wrong for Mikkelsen right on the last stage. Yeah,
and you don't really expect it from Mikkelsen in the WRC2 cars, where he was the class of field once again, dominated Friday, then just maintained it on Saturday, and then on Sunday, where you could have just cruised home on the final stage, he makes a major error and hands the win to his teammate and his rival for the title this year in Tiedman. And even though Tiedman for most of the rally was having a battle with Suninen in the Ford, and it was fantastic to see those two duel, and in the end just separated by 11 seconds. So yeah, overall just very disappointing for Mickelson, but I'm sure he's thinking of WRC ride in the future. But he did show that once again in WRC2 class he perhaps is just a step above the rest. But yeah, good win for Tiedemann, and he's virtually almost got that title, got one hand on the title with how the point system works in WRC2.
Yeah, of course, he's definitely in a very, very good situation. As you mentioned, I believe the kind of six best results get counted towards the championship. Last time I checked, out of your 7 rallies, so maybe Mickelson, he'll drop that retirement. So all Mickelson has to do is win every rally he takes part in now, which is certainly easier said than done. And hope that this is a good thing about those compulsory rounds, Matty, because it really pits the best guys against each other, and there's no kind of winning the championship by just turning up when Mickelson doesn't.
Well, if I was in charge of the championship, I'd try and make most of the rounds compulsory. But of course, like you say, it's travelling halfway across the world to Argentina is, some of the teams don't have the budget for that. So I guess it's like a necessary evil to almost have the championship laid out like this. But it definitely makes it interesting, because you never really know what the result is going to be until the last rally, or at least until one person completes the last rally, or whatever permutations come into play. But it is looking difficult now for Mickelson, because like you said, he's going to have to win every other rally left practically, and have Tiedemann enter some really enter quite a bit of trouble. So but I don't think there's any kind of doubt that Mickelson is the better driver in this case. It's just unfortunate, he's obviously had the crash, and Tiedemann isn't going to hang about to miss a chance of winning another rally. So unlucky, but we'll see what happens in the rallies coming up, to whether Mickelson can perhaps claw a little bit back in the championship.
Yeah, I think it was a mighty, mighty impressive job from Tiedemann. I think both him and Sunderland had a crash on the exact same stage, and as Kev mentioned, it's completely really, really close between the two of them. I believe Sunderland had an upgrade coming to the Ford this weekend, so obviously that seemed to help them get a bit closer to Skoda. So they seem a lot more evenly matched, which of course is what we want to see. And that should hopefully continue for the rest of the round. So yeah, to recap, we had Tiedemann winning the WRC2 class ahead of Sunderland. Tempestini was third, of course the Romanian, in his second appearance of 2017. We had Campos, the local driver, in fourth. We had a Polish guy in fifth.
Do you not want to have a go at pronouncing that?
I thought it was Pacek, but Pacek, who crashed on the very first stage, and actually I think managed to recover to ninth, which was a decent job. Other notable people, Gus Greensmith was in sixth, of course, the Brit, and also we had Arai and Katsuta, who I believe are the two Toyota young drivers. And yeah, they had a pretty miserable rally, unfortunately. So they've got a way to go, really. But I guess that's what WRC2 is, and they were kind of thrown in at the deep end. It really is a steep learning curve for some of these guys, and they will kind of be big victories for some of them, even if it's not the win. I think kind of Tiedemann, Sunderland, and Mickelson were in a bit of a class of their own this weekend. So the rest of them really had to fight it out over kind of 4th, 5th, 6th. So yeah, that pretty much rounds out the WRC2 category, and unless you guys had anything else to add, I think that pretty much recaps our review of Portugal.
Just the spectacular way in which who was it again? It was Quentin Gilbert, how he went out on the final jump of Faf. Absolutely,
I've not seen this.
It's an absolutely spectacular accident, and I urge you to watch it.
It is bound to happen, though, isn't it? That jump is mega. And
I think they reprofiled it. I think I heard.
Yeah.
But yeah. So different to years gone by as well. It's just the classic kind of caught out, wrong speed over the jump kind of crash.
Yeah. He also saw Al Qasemi, who was actually in the 4th Citroen, also landed like the left front and almost flip his car as well. We saw Ogier almost did it as well on his left front. So yeah, it was yeah, it's provided some scary moments for Af, and I think it was Osberg who was laughing till the end of the stage after he did his jump, and I know he almost winded his co-driver. So yeah,
that man is a lunatic, though.
yeah.
Loves his rallying, which is great to see. And Craig Breen as well, just a smile on his face as always after every single stage. Really, really good to see. Well, apart from the stage where he broke his dampener, I mean.
Yeah, I think it was on the first day where someone was asking Breen, how's your rally going? He's just saying, it's fantastic. When I put the foot down, it actually goes fast, and when I steer the wheel, it goes around the corners. It's really fast. I love it. And yeah, it's just fantastic seeing a young driver who really is enjoying his rallying and is also, as we discussed earlier, bringing the results as well.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely got a very, very bright future, and at present doing a very, very solid job. So in terms of Rally Italy, Sardinia, of course, one of the historic events on the calendar, of course, coming after Portugal as well. I believe Portugal was on the very first WRC calendar, so kind of into a bit of a run of some very historic events, of course, with Finland as well. But yeah, heading into Sardinia, I'm going to put you guys on the spot and just say, instead of a prediction for once, because like you said, Matty, earlier, it's very, very hard to predict, just which driver is kind of under the most pressure to perform, do you think, in Sardinia? Who really needs a good rally there? Starting with you, Kev. Or Matty, or you. Is that ready?
Well, I think Matty and I might have the same choice for the driver under the most pressure. It might be Chris Meek to actually finish a rally for once, and then also, of course, show the speed and, get at least the top 5 or a podium for Sitch and Joe, so drag them up in the Manufacturers Championship. So yeah, Chris Meek's probably the guy under the most pressure.
I wholeheartedly agree, and could even extend that to Lefebvre as well. In fact, the whole Citroen team. Well, Breen's doing good. Breen's doing good, obviously. So
Breen can do no wrong. Breen could sit out the rest of the season, and he's still
yes,
he's done a cracking job this year.
Who would have thought that at the beginning of the season that Breen would have had the majority of Citroen's points by this point? I certainly did not see that coming. Citroen just they either need to try and figure out a way to toughen up their cars, because obviously they can't afford to keep on crashing out of rallies at this point now, or they just need to find a way to make their cars so much quicker than everyone else that crashing it and binning it and do whatever they want to it, and it'll still end up in the lead. Both of which are incredibly unlikely, but they just need to get to the end of a rally now. Like, it's got to the point where it's almost comical that 2 cars go out of every rally, so they kind of need to sort themselves out.
Yeah, completely agree. I knew I forgot someone, and that was Hayden Paddon, who I forgot to mention. He retired, very, very unfortunate. Electrical glitch cost him 11 minutes on Friday. He was right up there, and after a few difficult rallies, it looks like Paddon's right back on it. New co-driver as well, Seb Marshall. I believe John Kennard's coming back, though, for the next couple, and then he'll be retiring permanently, and we'll get Marshall and Paddon then as a permanent duo after that. But yeah, good to see Paddon back on the up, and I'm hoping he'll have a good Sardinia. He's definitely due a good result, and he seems to be back on the right path, which is good, of course. Difficult start to season for him. And yeah, pretty much agree with you guys. It's hard to disagree. It's got to be Chris Meek and Lefebvre as well. The rallies will be ticking away till the end of the season, and time possibly running out for, I think, a few drivers on the grid, especially some very impressive drivers in WRC2 as well. So yeah, I think the driver market as well for next year will be an exciting one. And that will kind of start to ramp up over the next few rallies. So yeah, that's pretty much it then. Unless you guys have anything else to add, I think we'll wrap it up there.
That's everything. That's everything.
And we'll see you after Sardinia. Yeah, well, hopefully there'll be 3 of us again, and we'll make it 3 in a row.
That's how excited we are about making it 3 in a row. If that.
But until next time, have a wonderful week, month, year. Goodbye.